we got a little bit of some leakage coming out from a little live golf PGA Tour action. And the main thing that I saw was that one of the hiccups appears to be that some tour players want the live golfers to give back their gigantic contracts.
Which is crazy. And yeah, I actually don't think there's much more than that. The leakage was small. It was things have inched forward, which is just absolute, like, who knows what that is? Nobody knows what that means. That's just someone saying it and people being like, oh, it inched forward. Okay, I'm going to report that. And then, yeah, I saw what you saw where, yeah, some of the PGA Tour players, we don't know who. These are just nameless, faceless people, either want live guys to give back what they got from live. They want them to pay fines. They want them to forfeit future earnings if the leagues are to come together. They want all these things. And I just don't think that's how it's going to go. These guys aren't giving this money back. I don't think they'll give a cent of it back. And I would be on the side of they shouldn't have to give a cent of it back. They went to this rogue league. It's obviously created chaos within the golf world. We're now 2 years into this thing where it's like, what are we going to do? Some of those guys are spending that money. I'm sure Dustin Johnson has bought like 6 boats by now. Like, you can't expect these people to give the money back. And almost an ask like that is from a person who doesn't want a deal to get done. You're saying give back hundreds of millions of dollars or come back to the tour and forfeit winnings if you in the future. It's like, if that's the starting point for the negotiations, then there's just going to be 2 leagues forever, and golf is
nobody's giving back the money. That's one of the craziest things I've ever heard. I mean, and it's not even logistically feasible. You know, like that, right. Like you said, people are spending the money. They've invested the money. They've bought homes with the money. They've bought a jet with whatever the hell they've done with that money. That shit's gone. You can't just write a check. Nobody. I mean, imagine if your employer came to you, anyone that's listening to this show right now, and said, I actually need you to write me a check for your salary last year. You'd be like, well, what? I make also, car payments. Like,
say those are the terms. Like, they hammer it out and they're like, those are the terms. If I'm Rom, if I'm DJ, if I'm any of these guys, I'm like, well, then I'm just not going back to the PGA Tour. I'm keeping hundreds of millions of dollars and I'm just going to hang out like you guys.
Completely. And so not even like the logistical part of it is hilarious. That's not feasible. And then even from just a principle standpoint, it's like, dude, if you, the PGA Tour side, which I understand that there's a lot of fractures within that side of it, because there's the players, and then there's Monahan, and then there's the people that are business folks that are not Jay Monahan, because he doesn't seem to be in control of anything. And the players could argue, well, they agreed to do this deal, but we're actually mad because the tour agreed to do this framework deal without talking to us. So we're not happy about that. But the principle of it coming from that side of it is like, if the tour has indeed come to the PIF and said, like, we're willing to negotiate, let's do a deal, which they have, so that the PIF and all the legal stuff would go away so the tour didn't bleed money dry. You can't then be like, part of it and what we're going to require is retribution for those salaries, because that's not a deal. That right. Stuff's done, brother. Done. That's gone. That is over. You cannot be sitting there being like, we want punishment. We want to level the playing field on what previously occurred because we don't think it's fair. Then you're not at a deal. Then you're actually just still where you've been this entire time. You should have taken that money if that's where you're at. Dude, like, right. You should have gone to live. I'm sorry. Right. You blew it. And so, or you got screwed by sticking with the tour, which a lot of players probably feel. Both of those things can kind of be true at the same time. But yeah, the getting the money back thing, if that really is a hang up, I think we're going to be hung up forever, because I don't see that occurring at all.
Yeah, you're right. You have to start at a point. If you are truly negotiating, what has happened. And that's just it. You cannot then you're arguing from a point of frustration and anger, and that's just not going to work. Like, I'm sorry you didn't take the money. I'm sorry. But those guys did. Everybody thought it wasn't going to work, including myself. A lot of people on this podcast, a lot of people, Rory, Jay, a lot of people
dead in the water. Dead in the water.
Dead in the water. We were the dead in the water guys. We were right behind Rory at the players, being like, oh, this thing's dead. There's no way. But then more guys jumped than everybody thought. Higher profile guys, bigger names. John Rahm jumped, the last big guy. And we're like, all right, so it worked. The live thing, whatever they were trying to do, and I think we've talked about on this show a lot, where, Yasser loves golf. We hear that all the time. PIF, MBS, all that. What it seems like they were actually trying to do was just get a seat at the table of professional golf and just sort of be like, no, we're here now. And I know, and we're going to keep pulling players unless you kind of come together on this thing. And that it's going to work. It's eventually going to work. I know there's that new, strategic sports group that's dumping money in the PGA Tour, but it's still at the end of the day, we need all these guys together. So whatever is going to make that happen has to happen. We need John Rahm. We need Bryson DeChambeau. We need, Dustin Johnson, Patrick, like everybody who's gone over there, I would gladly have back on the PGA Tour just from an interest perspective, and it has to happen. And they're not going to give that money back. So don't even think about starting there with the negotiations.
Right. That's exactly right. So that part's done. It's over. If they are hung up on that aspect of it, then I feel like they're not inching forward at all. They've gotten absolutely nowhere, and they're not going to get anywhere. So that seems a little bit ridiculous to me. I kind of couldn't believe that. Maybe somebody was leaking that on purpose to try to get things to move or expedite something. But regardless, it didn't seem that great. It's almost weird for me now to even imagine a Players Championship that has Rahm and Brooks and DJ and Phil, although I don't know if Phil would even qualify, whatever, but like, it's like hard, you know what I'm saying? It's like hard for me to imagine like Ian Poulter out there, like with these guys back again, like touting the PGA Tour and their caddies wearing the PGA Tour logo. You know what I'm saying? Like I almost can't even fathom that happening.
Yeah, like what's it even going to look like when they come back? Are they going to tout the tour? Are they going to? I mean, I'm sure that whatever deal eventually comes when I'm, 65 years old, and like whenever that happens, like I don't know if, they'll all probably toe the line and be like, no, we're happy that everybody's back together. I'm happy to be playing on the PGA Tour again. I actually think we'll get used to it much faster, just like we got used to live pretty quickly. Like that's the craziest thing that's happened in golf in potentially its inception at the professional level, where it's like road league, whatever. And we kind of got used to that quick. It's like, Rahm's not here. Patrick Reed isn't here. Phil isn't here. And I do think, at least I hope, once they come together, it's going to be like, all right, the first time's going to be weird for sure. It's going to be like, wow, Rahm's back and he's playing in the Players Championship. But then after that, I think I'll get used to it pretty quickly. But that first one's going to be weird, and I'll be very curious to see what everybody says.